No, we won't do that. But it is interesting, isn't it? Because it's been put on hold.
Not put on hold. They say they're not doing it. I think Hat-Trick need me to die before they'll put it on.
To explain to people, so Hat-Trick Productions are, of course, the production company that originally commissioned Father Ted. I mean, they commissioned this musical, so they have the rights to it. And you've described it as that the musical is being held hostage, I think you said.
Yeah.
So can you tell us why that is? Why do they no longer want to make this? Obviously, I mean, it would be box office, right? Everyone would want to see this.
Yeah, the way I look at it is it's preemptive cultural vandalism. You know, it's something that's been cancelled before it even appeared. So I don't really know what to say except, you know, it's they've never told me what I've done wrong. They've never told me what I've said that they disagree with. When I asked once, someone in the room rolled their eyes as if it was obvious.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, no, actually, it's not obvious. Mermaids is now going down because of our work. Well done to everyone here who helped that happen. You know, we've been uncovering the effects of queer theory, the effects of safeguarding being removed for these vulnerable children, the women who are losing their livelihoods and their jobs. Rosie, who's here, I think, you know, all of these matters are, you know, I think we've been vindicated completely.
Yeah. I think that's absolutely right. And of course, you've been so vocal about this for so long, and you've paid the price. I think it's always the case with these kind of cultural hysteria. The first people to speak out are the ones to be punished, effectively. But it does make it easier for people later on.
Oh, I hope so. That was always the plan. I just didn't think it would take everyone so long to turn up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe explain to some people, because obviously, just in case people don't know, that's the police coming for Graham right now. You've been very vocal about your view that women shouldn't be monstered as TERFs, trans-exclusionary radical feminists, or demonised simply for saying that their rights partly depend on an acknowledgement of biological reality and that their spaces should be preserved. And you've made this case. You've been called a transphobe, hateful, far-right, you name it, all of that stuff, for simply making these points, which are actually a very liberal point of view.
You know, everybody just assumed all this to be true like 5 minutes ago, like Douglas Murray often says.
Yes.
You know, and people walk into these traps that they didn't even know were there. You know, like whenever I see someone apologise, I just think, no, never, ever apologise.
And when people say, but there is no, we were talking earlier about Graham Norton's comment that there was no such, that cancel culture should be called accountability.
But again, accountability for what? For revealing that children are being hurt, you know? That like, I found out from Elaine Miller, who's a physiotherapist, that young girls who are on testosterone for enough amount of time will go into the menopause 30 years too early.
Yeah.
None of these kids are being told this. They're being sold a vision of transitioning. Ben Cohen did a poster of just a man with a flat chest and hair on his chest and called it Trans Joy. How many young kids will have read that and thought that, you know, this is just a wonderful way to express themselves? It carries massive medical consequences. And these kids just are being lied to, and they're kind of they're grooming each other. They're being groomed by bad actors. Not you know, the Harry Potter gang, but like, you know, it's a huge society-wide problem. I've been contacted by Scottish rape victims who can't go to rape crisis services because there's a man in charge of Edinburgh Rape Crisis. I've been contacted by therapists who, one therapist said, these young kids come in tears because they think J.K. Rowling wants them dead. And she can't tell them that it's not true because the kids might report her to her accreditation body.
So this is mass fantasy, you know.
It's a mass delusion. It's like the satanic panic or any mass delusion. But what it's had is the turbocharging power of the internet.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like these phrases that we often hear, you know, you're denying my right to exist, you're doing all this sort of stuff. They've basically just been grooming themselves with these phrases. I mean, I remember Navarro Media gave advice on how to lie to your doctor so you can quickly get drugs, you know? There's people at some protest, I think, that Posey did, or some counter-protest, there was someone with a billboard saying, speak to me, I'll tell you how to get these drugs. you know?
It's incredible.
It is incredible. And to have absolutely no adults in the room, to have the police being given training by mermaids and journalists not covering it for the most part.
What I don't understand is why we don't learn from history. As you say, the satanic ritual abuse panic of the 1980s wasn't that long ago, right?
Yeah.
And we know that kids were taken away from their families, perfectly innocent people's lives utterly destroyed by fantasists.
And here's another thing. Can someone remind me of the name who connects the satanic panic to this? Barbara? Diane Ehrenschaft. Diane Ehrenschaft, I think her name is. She said that babies know they're trans when they try to take off their onesies. That's like how they're showing you they're the opposite sex.
Well, she's obviously deranged.
Yeah, but she was a major part of the satanic panic.
Really?
Yes. So what you had, like, you know, the same kinds of people are being empowered by it. You know, people who see in the kind of incoherence of the movement of the you know, the language and the amount of genders and all this sort of stuff. It's a very easy way to make a few quid very quickly.
And finally, you know, we could talk about this all night. You know, there's so much to cover. But in terms of the creative side of things, I mean, you have been cancelled. I mean, you know, the phrase cancelled, it sometimes is misused, I get that, but I mean, in your case, it's definitely true. You're not creating the comedy that you're so brilliant at.
Well, that's why I find Graham Norton, you know, so personally such a betrayal, you know, because one of the first things he did was his role in Father Ted. There's no way he cannot know about what's happened to me.
Yeah.
So for him to say there's no cancel culture, I don't know what to say about it, but he's really disappointed me.